If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, or racism, which is white supremacy, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. If you do not understand white supremacy, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you.
Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of Politics, Economics, the Struggle to Survive in America. I'm Jerrald President. And as usual, I always start off every show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Because as he always says, if you don't understand white supremacy, what it is and how it functions, everything else will only confuse you. Now this week what I'm talking about, what we had is Bernie Sanders. He made the little talk shows, the Breakfast Club, he went on The View, he went on all these different shows. And every question pivoted back to, are you for reparations? Now I'm a proponent. My whole life, I've always felt they owe us. I worked on them fields with my grandparents. I know what it was like to work on them fields before they started bringing them people from Guatemala and Mexico to work in the fields. I know what it's like. And my brothers who listening to this, they know, because they laughing right now, because they remember us working on those fields when everybody was black and my grandma my age, in her 50s, in her 60s, working in them goddamn fields, picking okra and tomatoes. So I know what it was like. And for those that's other, it's the reason why I wear this shirt proudly, being a descendant of a slave. And I'm not going to step away from what it is. One thing I want to make this little side note. We as descendants of slaves in America, we got to stop running from what we are. I don't want to hit this with kings and queens in Africa. We all want kings and queens. So don't keep playing that game and quit lying. Right now, for the purposes of this show, always remember what was done to us here in America. Stop always regurgitating what you keep reading in some damn Bible. Regurgitate what happened to you here in America, because you can trace that. You can physically trace that. We can't trace nothing in the book that was given to us by Europeans. But what we can do is trace what happened to us here. We got to stop sticking our hands in the sand and acting like that didn't happen to us. Yes, there were Africans already here, or whatever you want to call that continent. Yes, we was already here. We were. But I'm talking about for the purposes of here being in the Western Hemisphere, once the Spanish and the Portuguese and the French came, and then the British in 1619, Francis Drake in Jamestown, Virginia, for the purposes of that, embrace it. Embrace it and quit running from it. That's how they do us. We keep running from it, and we don't really want to tell our kids. So we give them fairy tales. We have them going looking for Easter eggs and telling them that Santa Claus is real, and never letting our kids understand that this struggle is real. We are descendants of slaves, whether you were dropped off in the Caribbean, or you were dropped off in Panama, if you were dropped off in Guatemala, Nicaragua, Brazil. We are descendants of slaves. But for the purposes of myself and my family, I'm a descendant of slave right here in the United States of America. Now, I want you to understand something. This movement about reparations, it's been past due. It's been past due. They've always owed us. And we do a disservice to our children when we don't make them understand. Do you think Jewish folks don't tell their kids all the time to remember the Holocaust? You don't think the Native Americans are constantly telling their children about the Trail of Tears? Do you not think that? But because we've been brutalized psychologically and physically since they brought us here off the bottom of the slave ship Jesus, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, we've been constantly sticking our heads in the sand. And I'm so glad that it's building. So for everyone that's purchased one of my shirts, I really and truly appreciate you supporting this. Whether you're not a descendant of slaves here in the United States of America, I love the fact that they are embracing it, because they're descendants of slaves from the countries that they immigrated from. And this movement is going to keep building. I've been like this my whole life. Anyone who's listening to this show, who's ever come in contact with me, they know it's no such animal as being a radical. It's saying that this can't happen. No, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. But for the purposes of this particular episode, I'm going to illuminate the game that the Democratic Party is playing. See, what I'm going to let you listen to is Mr. Bernie Sanders. Now, Bernie Sanders went on the Breakfast Club and he got, the proverbial pat on the back from a bunch of clowns. I was happy that he was on there. I was happy that a few of the individuals even asked him a question. But what they did, they kikied. And one thing I love about myself and what I've been able to do establishing with my website is I've constantly giving you the direct information from the only place you can get it from, the United States government. Again, I've always want you to understand, I'm a C-SPAN junkie. All the stuff is directly there. All you have to do is Google it. Please go on JerraldPresident.info and you'll see all this information is there. That's why I always say I'm not going to give you an opinion. I'm only going to give you what these people are publishing. And I'm pretty sure those numbers not 100%, but those are the only numbers we can go by living here in America. They are the only numbers. But for the purpose of this show, I'm going to give you Senator Bernie Sanders.
We're back with Senator Bernie Sanders. Now, the last time you ran, your poll numbers with African Americans were quite low. And you also don't support reparations for slave descendants. Why do you think your poll numbers are low, and why don't you support reparations?
Well, first of all, our poll numbers are not low. I think if you look at polls in the last 6 months, they're quite high among the African-American community.
Okay.
And even in 2016, we ended up winning by good margins votes from younger African-Americans and Latinos and whites. We did very well among younger African-Americans. Look, I happen to believe that at a time of tremendous disparity, the wealth gap, for example, between the white community and the black community is like 10 to 1. Health disparities are terrible. Environmental disparities are terrible. Flint, Michigan comes to mind.
Yeah.
So I think what we have got to do is pay attention to distressed communities, black communities, Latino communities, and white communities all over this country. And as president, I pledge to do that.
Why not support reparations then?
Well, what do you mean by reparations?
By reparations for slave defendants.
I know, but what does that mean exactly?
Money.
Well, I think that right now our job is to address the crises facing the American people and our communities. And I think there are better ways to do that than just writing out a check.
I think there are better ways to do that than just writing a check. Now, did you notice? I want you to understand something. You notice how he said, "What do you mean by reparations?" Here's a guy whose family immigrated from Eastern Europe. Do you not think his family were given reparations from the Eastern Europeans? Do you not think that? You don't think we deserve a check? We do deserve more than a check. Always remember this. They give out awards every year for the largest landowners here in the United States of America. I'm not on that list. No one who looks like me is on that list. No one. It's the doublespeak. What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean reparations? But he signed off on a bill to give reparations to Jews. He signed off on a bill to force France, who was, using their train, their railways, to transport. Yes, that's Senator Bernie Sanders. Yes, he signed on to that bill. And they received their money. Matter of fact, I think it was February 7th of this year. France started sending them and cutting those checks. But for some strange reason, when it comes to descendants of slaves, black people, and then for him to say, now again, I want to say this. If there is a choice between him and Donald Trump, if there is a choice, okay, put him on in there. Put him on in there. Is that going to change us? No, because I want you to always remember this. The President of the United States does not, once again, pass legislation. They can only do executive orders. It's the body Congress that's ran by Nancy Pelosi, Steny Hoyer, Jim Clyburn. These are the people, these are the gatekeepers. These are the people who control allocate the funds. The president has always been a figurehead for the corporation called America. But it's so interesting to see. Last episodes I gave you Kamala Harris, how she tap danced around and she just explicitly said, no, I ain't giving you motherfuckers none. I ain't doing shit explicitly for black people. But what did Bernie Sanders just say? No, I don't believe in the check. But he believed in the check to give to his people of his faith. See, that's the power of white supremacy.
Trashmen didn't get my trash today. Oh, why? Because they want more pay. Buses on strike wanna raise and fare so they can help pollute the air. But that's what makes the world go round. The ups and downs of carousel, changing people's hands around. Go underground, young man. People make the world go round. Wall Street losing dough on every share. They're blaming it on longer hair. Big men smoking in their easy chair.